Hey, what's going on? It's Michael Yo. Welcome to Comics on Canes, brought to you by DraftKings. We'll talk about that a little bit later because I want to get into it. I got the guru, the Miami guru. You see him everywhere. He's Miami's official expert to me. Gio Milian, how are you, my man?
I'm doing good. It's hump day. It's Wednesday, middle of the week. Just finished up coming back from vacation and whatnot with the family for Memorial Day weekend. And now it's officially official visit season. It's fun times for the Hurricanes.
Let's talk about that big weekend this weekend. Can you tell us who's like the top three people you're excited to see?
Derek Cooper would be number one. I like where Miami's trending there. Chauncey Kennan would be the next one up, the five-star cornerback out of the Sarasota, Florida area. Also a Miami legacy. He's Sam Shields' nephew, so some connections there with the Hurricanes. And even another Miami legacy himself, and Brody Jennings, a four-star cornerback out of the Jacksonville, Florida area. His older brother used to play for Miami. His father played for Florida State. His sister runs track for Miami right now. So a lot of connections there.
So Tristan Keys, I'm hearing a lot about him. Is he coming this weekend, next weekend? When do we expect him to show up?
Yeah, so he's expected to be arriving this weekend. Sometime on Saturday morning, he'll be there on campus visiting. I know everyone's really excited about him coming up. I've mentioned the last couple of weeks that it was a possibility that this was the weekend he would be arriving for his official visit. That's more of a long play, though. I've been trying to emphasize that regardless of what happens with his recruitment right now, there's intentions to take game day visits. Likely things will stretch into December, but Miami's ready to do the long play there.
Now, Gio, I know you very well. You don't seem too excited about about Tristan Keys. Like you didn't mention him up top. I know we're in play for him, but you're not too enthusiastic, I can tell.
Yeah, because it's more so of a long-term thing. I don't get the sense, and even speaking to people involved with that recruitment, I don't get the sense that, like, let's say hypothetically, even if he committed to Miami right now, that thing's going to stretch out for months now. Like even if he doesn't back off of LSU right now, there's been a lot of chatter that he might back off that commitment. That so many teams are involved, and it's such a heavy NIL-led recruitment that there's going to be some twists and turns along the way. So like getting excited right now would be just kind of, I don't know, too premature.
I got you. But don't you agree decommitting from LSU is a great business move? Just as far as getting NIL money?
Yeah. Well, you look at it when you consider the programs that are involved, Texas A&M, Miami, Tennessee, a lot of those teams have been very much linked to, just being great NIL factors for players or benefactors.
Now, who do you see the next player to commit to Miami? Like in your crystal ball, who do you see?
Well, I'll be honest with you. Reese Woodrow over the weekend, I don't want to say that it came as an entire surprise, but anyone that you talk to in the media that speaks with the Miami side of things, everything moved there very quickly. He wasn't a guy that I had on the radar being like the exact next commit. I knew Miami liked him. I know they loved what they saw from him when they went to see him this spring. I just didn't think it was going to move that fast. He still had an official visit to Miami coming up and everything, but he wanted to get it done. He wanted to get in the class, and Miami got a big win over Florida State there. So they're excited about him. But in terms of the next guy, I think you could look towards some people like Blake Stewart from the state of Georgia, the safety, four-star prospect. You could also look at potentially a guy like Ashari Charles, four-star defensive end from Venice, Florida. Another guy I could toss in the mix there, Israel Briggs, the four-star tight end from the West Coast, 6'6", over 200 pounds, flex tight end type. Miami's trending very well there. And even Derek Cooper, a lot of the expectation is that we should see a decision come from him. The latest by July is what the rumblings are.
Now with Reese, I know probably he was a 3-star, and a lot of people say he's trending up, but I can also understand why he would commit really fast, because I'm sure the pressure, Miami has the upper hand in that one. To a certain point, it's like, hey, we only have a certain number of spots, so you in or you're out. If you're out, we'll just move on.
Yeah, I think you're right on the money there in terms of that assessment, because I've shared that with the private board. The number I've consistently heard about offensive linemen in this class is 7 guys is kind of their target number. And right now they're largely focused on Brett Kola Jay from IMG Academy, and then Cannon Pickett right after him from the Tampa, Florida area. They're also still looking at some other guys like Ryan Murray from Southridge, who they've been on for a while. I know they still have plans internally to try to continue pushing for Kenai Pepe, even though he committed to USC. That may be a long shot, but at the end of the day, this is why you recruit. You always got to recruit to the end.
Now, Kola Jay, where are we with him? Are we building momentum? Where are we at with him?
I love where Miami stands with him heading into official visits. Actually, if I had to basically lay it out in terms of where things stand, I think it's Georgia playing from behind compared to Miami being in pole position right now. That wasn't necessarily the case a couple of months ago, but Miami's done a really good job in terms of selling the program, selling the vision in terms of development, getting ready for the next level. And the way they view him internally too, they truthfully believe, this is not hype, truthfully believe in their building that Kola Jay is the best interior offensive lineman in the country. They're really big fans of his game, and they've been pursuing him as such.
Look, I've always known about the Miami hate, but it seems like it's in overdrive right now, especially what we getting Cantwell and other players are very interested. All I'm hearing is about the money that it seems like only Miami has and the rest of the schools don't have it.
Yeah, I think you're right on the money with that. And the reason why I would say is you look at these third-party websites or guys like me who are staff writers that cover teams around the country, whether it be LSU, Tennessee, Florida, Georgia, Alabama, or even Oregon to an extent, even though they have Phil Knight, there's always some notion that when Miami's involved, oh, Miami's tossing this bag. Miami's giving X amount of $1 million to this player or that player. The reality is, if you're any top player in the country, any top school pursuing you, you are going to get NIL regardless. So like we go back to like the Jackson Cantwell situation. He was going to get NIL regardless of where he went. So this whole thing that, oh, Miami is spending more than everybody, that's crazy. I know Texas is spending a lot of money, Texas A&M, Texas Tech, a new one now. USC spending a lot of money. Florida spent quite some money last year too. So Miami's not the only program that is giving compensation.
It's kind of weird to me that Ohio State spending all that money on their roster last year and won a national championship was kind of swept under the carpet. But this one player, Cantwell, Miami getting is all over everywhere and everybody attacking it. But I think it comes down to the clicks, and that's what game we're into right now. It's all about clicks. And Miami is the team that, love them or hate them, you're going to read about them.
I agree. Miami moves the needle in that aspect. Miami's always controversial for some people. Some people like to bring up Miami when there's no point. We even see the anonymous ACC coach this week.
I saw that.
Pat Narduzzi, we all know it's him, making comments about Miami being the Yankees or the Dodgers of college football. It's funny, the envy and just the hate that comes with it. But I will say one thing though, the more and more hate Miami get, like I feel bad for the younger fans that are Miami Hurricane fans, because they truly don't know what like the real hate is. Like when Miami is on top or at the very near top of college football, the hate is vast. People hate the Hurricanes' guts.
I love it though. I love playing the bad guy. It's like Scarface. I'm the bad guy. Look at me. I love it. I love that we're playing the bad guy. And when people say that Cantwell only took the money, which is a lazy comment, because if Stanford offered Cantwell $3 million, he wouldn't go there.
Yeah.
It's just ridiculous. It's just ridiculous. All right. Let's jump into the team a little bit. We're getting ready. Are you hearing anything about Carson Beck? What's the latest update?
Yeah, everything has been good. He's ahead of schedule. He's been throwing with the guys on his off time as well. Still doing some minor rehab work here and there. Not like throwing any major deep balls downfield yet, but that's coming up in the next couple of weeks. I will say one of the guys that's really impressed people around the program since his arrival is Mohamed Toure out of
Yes.
Rutgers, the linebacker. He was paired up with Corey Heatherman when he was the linebackers coach at Rutgers. Heatherman went to Minnesota. Now he's here at Miami. Both guys reunited. It's a lot of good stuff coming out of that end. I will say another guy who is having a pretty good offseason in terms of preparation, Ethan O'Connor, the transfer cornerback that Miami got out of Washington State. He may or may not start this year, but he's definitely going to get a lot of playing time. They're really impressed with what he brings to the table. And Keelan Marion, the transfer wide receiver / kick returner from BYU that Miami got in the spring portal window. I've heard a lot of good feedback on him. Some people in the building believe that he could have a big step up in production this year at Miami. And I think there's also some proof of concept there too. Miami's had a guy similar to him in the past, in Brashard Smith, that they would draw up some plays for on the field in specific situations. Gadget type of guy. He could have a really good season this year, from what I'm hearing.
Man, I'm so excited just to have a good punt and kick returner. I mean, because we haven't had that in 20 years.
Yeah, it's been quite some time.
Well, Duke Johnson was great. Duke Johnson was good. But besides that, in the last 15 years, it's nothing.
Yeah, at kick returns, it's been a little bit of a struggle. I'd say DJ Dallas was a pretty good punt returner himself.
Yeah,
but it's been very few and far between. I think you're exactly right on that.
So now, going into the season, what's the most underrated player on the roster you feel?
Most underrated player, I would say, from what I've heard in the feedback that I've gotten, I would land that on. Well, the thing is, people already kind of know about Poyser, but I'll say Alex Bowman, the transfer from Tulane, the tight end transfer. Not many people have been talking about him because he missed some time during the spring. He came back towards the end of it. What I was told from people around the program when he was coming in, the biggest thing that they're excited about with him is the level of consistency from game to game. Like, he's not a guy that, you have one good game and then he's kind of MIA the next 2 or 3. They really love his consistency from a day-to-day basis. So I know they're really excited about him. They love Elijah Lofton, but I think Alex Bowman's going to be in that conversation to be a weapon in the offense as well.
Where are you on the scale of excited to not excited for the young receivers this year? Do you think JoJo will have a breakout year? Do you think we should have added, even though we didn't get it, more experienced receivers on it? Are you nervous about the young core receivers? Where are you at on this?
Well, I'll start off with, am I not nervous about the young receiver core and like the guys after the veterans that they brought in? I'm not worried, to be honest. And this is the reason why I say this. One of 2 reasons. One, this happens a lot around college football, that you have to replace guys after X amount of years. And everyone says, oh, no, but what's going to happen? This guy left. And then that's when new stars arrive. New guys come on the scene. And some guys elevate. The competition brings the best out of them. Now, number 2 to that equation, why I'm not concerned, Kevin Beard, for as long as I've seen him coach Miami receivers in his 2 stints, because he was here during the Al Golden era, even his receivers back then were super productive, but he's shown that he could develop these guys, that he can get production out of them. Because I go back to the transition from Miami firing, relieving Josh Gaddis of his duties after 2022 and going into 2023, the narrative was, oh, what receivers are going to step up? And everyone was talking about Tyler Harrell and Frank Ladson. And I was telling people, no, like, the guys that are showing out are Xavier Restrepo and Jacoby George, guys that Kevin Beard had developed, and they carried it on. Isaiah Horton is another example. That is a guy that Kevin Beard helped develop. So I think Miami will be fine at the receiver position. The guys that like in terms of who I envision stepping up, as long as JoJo Trader is healthy, that he doesn't have any injury hiccup, I wholeheartedly believe that he will step up this year, and I could see him being the number one in the offense. I
That would be
truthfully can't
amazing.
that just from ability to athletic standpoint. You even watch the recent workout video that he had with CJ
Yep.
Daniels and Marion in the indoor practice facility, and just the movement and the strides are so different, even compared to some of those veteran guys. It just looks smooth, natural, like effortless for him. And those are key qualities to great receivers, that they just make it look easy. Like it doesn't look difficult, anything that they're doing. So I could see him stepping up and being that number one in that entire group as long as he's healthy. Really, he could have had some level of a breakout last year, but he was
Yeah.
dealing with an injury last season. Finally got healthy towards the end of the season, got his chance in the bowl game. But I think this year can be JoJo's year. And out of the freshman guys that came in, the three guys that they brought in between Dalen Upshaw, Malachi Tony, Joshua Moore, all three of those guys, like, and I don't want to like hype this up majorly, but all three of them had really big moments in spring camp. Like I hope it carries over to fall. You know, sometimes some guys, they may taper off, they may hit that freshman wall. But if I had to bet on one guy, Malachi Tony, I said it since he was in high school. I said that his ranking from the recruiting sites was disrespectful completely.
Yeah.
But anyone who watched football down here in South Florida has known for a while that Malachi Tony is that guy.
Okay. Two questions here. On a scale of 1 to 10, Jeremiah Smith being a 10, what is JoJo on that scale?
I think a 9 or a 9.5.
Wow. Okay.
A 9 or a 9.5. People forget this, that well, depending on what website you looked at, I think one or two of them dropped him just outside of 5-star status because he missed some games during his senior year. And obviously, it's kind of hard being like in the same spotlight with Jeremiah Smith on the same team.
Yeah.
Like Jeremiah Smith is an incredible talent. I think the difference between him and JoJo is that Jeremiah is like that built in a lab type that you look at him, you're like, damn, like I think that guy's a top 5 pick or whatever. JoJo in his own right can be extremely good too. I think he could be a great player. I saw him play throughout his high school career, especially even when he was playing at Miami Central. I think that was the best of him during his prep career. I highly suggest this, Mike. Go back and check his state championship highlights during his sophomore season when he was playing for Miami Central. In the state championship, he had a punt return for a touchdown, an interception return for a touchdown, and a receiving touchdown, all in the same game. And people look at me crazy when I've said this before, but there are some people who agree with me. I do think Jeremiah Smith is the better wide receiver of the two, but I think JoJo Trader is the better athlete of the two, if you catch my drift.
Oh, 100%. If you could pick the starting receiving core right now, who would it be?
I would say, I think what you'll see against Notre Dame opening up the season, I think you'll see CJ Daniels at the X receiver position. I think you'll see JoJo Trader at the Z. The Y, I think you'll see like your slot. I think you'll see Tony Johnson being the starter. Keelan Marion will also get in the mix there between like slot and some Z receiver and whatnot. But I think those will be your 3 starters. But I could totally see Malachi Tony elevating throughout the season. I think they just want to play it safe going into a big game like that, Notre Dame, to open up the season, kind of set the tone. You're kind of scared having a true freshman that's 16 going on 17 in a big environment like that out the gate. But I could see Tony definitely elevating throughout the year.
Now, do you agree with this? I feel like if any position you can rely on young people, it is receiver, because it's not, I mean, to a certain point, it's about experience, body type, but not like the line, defensive line. Like, it's hard to start as a freshman. You're just not built like, you're going against grown men. At least at a receiver, if you're fast, you're quick, you have a chance against anybody.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. We look back to Justin Scott last year. He had some moments that he flashed, but it's really this offseason where he's taken that next step. Or we look to guys like Francis Mauanoa a couple of years back. He was ahead of the curve for a freshman. That's not the norm, that a true freshman offensive tackle comes in and just dominates from the word go.
Now, where are we at with Pancake? Because read some of the boards that saying he's a bust. Other people are like, yo, I mean, usually junior year is where linemen start to kick in. So where are you at on Pancake?
Well, I've always had the rule of thumb when it comes to player development that I feel players should have about 3 years until you could really determine what they truly are. Obviously, it doesn't always work out that way with the transfer portal and NIL era now. Some guys leave after a year or 2 years. But I think 3 years is a fair rule of thumb that I like to go by. The other thing I'll mention, I realized this the other week. There was a guy that Miami had in the late 90s, early 2000s by the name of Vernon Carey. He was the number one offensive tackle in the country right in Miami's backyard. He did not become a starter until he was a redshirt junior at Miami. He had to sit behind guys like Joaquin Gonzalez and Bryant McKinney and others, because Miami had some good guards at that time too. And he became a star himself when he got on the field. I'm not saying that's the trajectory for Samson Okunlola, but what I am saying is look at the situation. They've had a guy like Jalen Rivers who had started already over 30-something games in his career. It's kind of hard to put a guy like that on the bench. Then Francis, who already established himself as a freshman. People forget when Samson first came in, he was kind of like a 6th, 7th man on the offensive line. They used to line him up with Matt McCoy as 2 extra tight ends right on the edges of your line in goal line situations. Then Samson had an injury his freshman year. But I feel we have to see when he gets like in an actual game. Like he didn't play a whole ton last year. And then you look at the situation that they brought in Markel Bell. People forget Markel Bell was the number 1 JUCO tackle in the country. So he's got Bell and Francis in front of him. And his game hasn't really translated well to guard. So they've mainly focused on tackle for him. So again, we got to wait and see. I think it's still too premature to say for sure he's a bust or for sure he's going to be a star. I think it's just wait and see.
Bold prediction. It doesn't have to be the record, but what do you think Miami's going to do this year?
I think Miami can be a playoff team this year. And the reason why I lead to that is you look at the interview tour that Mario Cristobal has done this offseason, just being on Josh Pate's show or different avenues and websites and podcasts he's been on. And he hasn't minced his words about it, that yes, it was a disappointment last year. They know very well, him and the players, that they didn't reach that goal that they had last year to get into the postseason, to go further beyond what this program has seen for a long time. Didn't mince his words about the defense last year. He's kind of held back a little bit, but when he leaves little comments like we lost our way or we lost our identity or we couldn't recognize what that defense was, basically, he's saying the truth. Miami had basically a national championship caliber offense last year, and that defense was like basically a 500 defense, pretty much. That offense carried that team. So I like how aggressive Miami's been in terms of approaching the defense, especially the secondary. I think the secondary was the weakest link of that defense last year. People talk about, oh, well, the defensive line, they should have been better. It's hard to continue producing as a defensive line when offenses have figured out your defense, that your defensive backs are not that great and quarterbacks and offensive coordinators are calling up 3-step drops, quick passes, quick outs, and everything to combat that. Your defensive line basically gets negated, and people forget this, but Miami's defensive line was I believe it was top 5 or top 10 in pressures in the entire country. So it wasn't like they weren't exactly doing their job. So I think people also get a little too critical on Ruben Bain as well. I think he's a guy that you will see more of Ruben Bain this year that we all have known and come to love from him.
That's what I'm excited about. I've said the exact same thing you just said about the defensive line. They got too much criticism because if you don't take away the first pass of the quarterback, you're never going to get to the quarterback anyway. And our defensive backs could not take away the first option most of the time. So It's a ridiculous argument. I see Ruben Bain having a breakout year. I see Akeem Messidor having a great year. But I also see, since our defensive tackles are so kind of, we know we have a couple of good ones. We don't know how good they're going to be all around. I could see Akeem moving back and forth on that, mostly defensive end, but helping out on the inside as well. Do you see that?
Yeah, I could see that for him. I could see that with Ruben Bain, Armando Blunt, and Cole McConaughey. Those guys kind of fit that mold that they could play outside and inside. Some NASCAR package there as well.
Yeah.
I think Marquise Lightfoot's going to be a guy that, as long as he continues on that trajectory from this spring, he's really going to open some people's eyes this season.
Nice. All right. How can people find you, Gio?
Everyone can find me on X at Gio Milian, or also I have a weekly show with Amon Richards called Who Wants Smoke. You can find it on YouTube. Make appearances on Locked on Canes. I got a private board with a whole bunch of information on Hurricanes recruiting and team stuff that's been open now for many months. People really enjoy it. Perfect time to get involved in there in the private board with official visit season going on.
And I love hearing you on Alex Dono's show, Locked on Canes. Is there a Panther thing that's going to happen with you too? Is that a rumor?
Yes. There's been a lot of preparation that has gone into it, but yes, it is coming very, very, very soon. Me and Dono are doing a weekly show on the Florida Panthers coming very soon.
I love it. Tell Dono I said hi. He's the best.
I will.
All right. Make sure you check out my man Gio Milian, and make sure you like, subscribe, do all the good things for our podcast. The audio of this will be going up today as well. I'm finally on the audio side as well. So Gio, thank you so much, bro.
Thank you, Mike. Anytime.